Ladies and gents, welcome. And I guess this would be our New Year's special. So back for another interview, this time with probably say one of my best friends, Jack Ebner. And I think this will be interesting because I know some of these answers, but not all of them. So I'll
hmm
give you a little introduction. Jack Ebner from Edina, Minnesota, one of my favorite places in the world. Um,
well, a squawk.
right.
Let's,
Well, we can get into that.
Okay.
Graduated. Took 5 years at Miami, Ohio, with me.
Yep.
Graduated this past year,
hmm
and has since turned pro. You've got quite a few things on your resume, including a Minnesota junior.
Yep.
Um, and I'm sure we'll get into the others. But why don't you
Yep.
tell us kind of how you first got into golf, your first experience on a golf course?
Um, my dad he played high level amateur golf, was a very talented collegiate golfer. So, from the second I was born, there was golf kind of around my life. And once I got old enough to go out to clubs, I remember shockingly not my mom, if she sees this, will be happy. My mom was the one in my early days who would take me to the golf course and let me chip and putt. And my first real core memory with golf was again with my mom out at Windsonger Club, and for every chip in, I'd get a root beer float. So I'd sit there for hours trying to chip in and log as many root beer floats as I could. So that was my first real experience with golf. But honestly, I didn't really get huge into golf until kind of early teens when I finally met some buddies that were into golf. Because I mean, as I'm sure you can relate, golf is cool now, but 10 years ago it
No.
still wasn't a cool sport. So it
Right.
was, I was, I liked it. I would play like some random junior events, but didn't really get into it until I met kind of my core group of buddies. That's when I got into practicing and wanting to get better and beat the guys and play bigger and better tournaments. So you know, once it was kind of like 12, 13, 14 is when I really started working at my game.
That's funny about the root beer float. Maybe that's where your sweet tooth comes from,
It
huh?
definitely plays a factor in
Gosh.
my little candy addiction, my sugar
Yep.
addiction. But
Well, that's
um,
funny.
if you know, if, when I'm a parent, hopefully one day I'm gonna offer the same deal.
No,
So
yeah,
I
it's
wanted to be out. I wanted to be out there chipping.
right. Which is
Um,
funny because I mean, you see so many kids like, oh, I hate practicing. It's like, no, you
yeah,
incentivize it. It's perfect.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a simple thing like you know, my mom definitely scummed me probably out of a lot of root beer floats because I remember I had like 13 or 14, logged in that I didn't get to cash in. So it was a win on her part because I got better at chipping and she didn't have to pay the full price.
Well, maybe they're coming around.
But
Who knows?
yeah, you never know. I'll exactly.
Cool. So then you kind of get into high school. I'm assuming you
hmm
played at Edina. Um,
Played at Edina, made the team as varsity as a freshman,
nice.
which at the time Edina we were kind of one of the powerhouse teams my early years because our upperclassmen were all studs. So that was a huge accomplishment for me. I didn't play pretty much at all my first 2 years, but then once the older guys left is when I kind of took my reign of the team.
Nice. And then I mentioned Minnesota Junior Champ.
hmm
You played in a U.S. Junior. How did you land at Miami?
Honestly, I was until late in my high school career, I was an extremely mediocre golfer. Was not highly recruited, but really wanted to play college golf. Knew I was had the ability to be good enough to play college golf. And you know, Miami. My dad, is originally from Ohio, the Cleveland area. I was reaching out to some Ohio schools just because, at growing up, all I wanted to do was be a gopher, but at the time, they didn't really give me the fairest look, and I just kept pestering um, Miami's coach at the time, Zach Zedrick, as you know, and thankfully, after annoying him with enough emails and calls, and having my swing coach call and put in words, brought me in for a visit, and then offered me with I'm sure we'll get into this also, but with the contingent of taking a gap year because again at that time I hadn't really my resume was okay, but it wasn't probably up to what most coaches are looking for.
Right.
So I was extremely appreciative that Zedric at the time gave me the opportunity with the gap year, because at that point I had no other options. I was either gonna take the gap year and go to Miami, or just go and play D3 golf or be a normal student, and I was extremely grateful to have that opportunity. So
Right. So then, the gap year now is a super popular thing with the transfer portal and guys wanting to go to better schools.
yeah,
Maybe not at the time. Was that something new that was like, oh, like what the heck?
I had I had never heard of anything like it, and when I was talking to people, because I got the offer and he gave me some time to think on it. I was talking to people and everyone's like, "Gap year? Like what are you gonna do? Like, it feels like you're just gonna sit on the couch for a year and wait to go." But yeah, no, it was to that point. I had never really heard or thought or even considered doing a gap year. But obviously, I'm really happy it all worked out. But at the early stages of the gap year, that fall was a really difficult time for me, because you're seeing all your buddies go off to college,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sitting at home, and I'm practicing, but I was also working a couple jobs, because in that gap year I had an opportunity arise to go to Australia, and had to kind of muster up some cash to be able to go do that. But I mean, yeah, no, the fall I was sitting there like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Just like, is this really what I want to do? Like, is golf? Do I really want to play college golf that bad? And
Mm.
obviously, I did, and I'm really happy that I stuck through that, because it definitely has changed my life and kind of the direction of my life. So
Yeah. So then I guess dive into how Australia got set up and what that kind of looks like.
yeah, so back to my dad. He played college golf at Minnesota, and one of his roommates, I think it was his junior senior year, was from Australia. Brad James, who he was later the University of Minnesota head coach, and then got the opportunity to be the director of golf for Golf Australia, which is it's you can essentially say it's their version of college golf, because they don't really have college athletics
Yeah.
down there. Golf Australia is a golf program where they take the top junior players and put them into a program, and they take them to tournaments, help them train, practice, whatever. So I was lucky enough to be able to go down, or my dad was talking to Brad James, telling him about this gap year, and he's like, "Why don't you send him down?" And I was down there for a little over 2 months, and I got to train, play, practice, and travel with a lot of the top Australian players, which was an unbelievable experience.
Yeah, I can imagine. The
Mm-hmm.
the sand belts is just so I just seeing it online. It's so
It
cool.
was
Oh my
it
gosh.
was crazy. The golf courses were awesome. I was based in Melbourne for the majority of it, which is where all those sandbelt courses were. So I was able to play Victoria. I did not get to play Royal Melbourne, but I got to go out. They were holding an event out there, so I got to go out.
Cool.
I went out back to back days and got to watch and walk around Royal Melbourne, which is that's kind of a bucket list course for
Yeah.
any golfer. So that was a really cool experience.
All right. So then you spend the year um, doing a variety of things in your gap year, and then we head to Oxford, Ohio, which
Mm-hmm.
who doesn't love Oxford,
Home,
Ohio?
baby.
Yep. If you were to summarize your experience or your career or experience, let's do college experience,
Okay.
and then we can do golf related in
Okay.
3 words. I know that's tough to limit it to 3 words.
Uh huh. Um, Oxford's an extremely special place, and I would say if I could sum it up, my college experience in 3 words,
I
can it
know
be four?
for sure. Yep. Yep.
Work hard, play hard.
Nice. Nice.
So I feel like we were really lucky in Oxford of having a good group of guys that, for the most part, were super or just really wanted to get better at golf, but we're also guys that we liked to have our fun, have our moments, and I felt like Oxford was a perfect place that allowed you to be able to do. But I mean, academically, socially, and athletically, I think
Mm-hmm.
it gives anybody the a perfect perfect balance of everything. If as long as you're, if you hold yourself accountable. But it's a great fun town, and as you could relate, Daddy, that we still compete and play at an extremely high level.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And then I guess on the golf side, I was there for 4 of your 5.
Hmm.
3 or 4 words to describe your golf career.
I'd say steadily got better.
Hmm.
I felt like my freshman year I was pretty good, and probably got a little comfortable and wasn't working as hard. But then after that, I felt like I just kind of steadily grew from sophomore year all the way to my 5th year, just continually getting better. And again, that's a lot of that's to the people I was with there, the availability we had to resources, and having our new coach JD Fletcher was, I think, really helped me feel more comfortable. And he, being on the team with JD for a year, he knew my potential and really believed in me and gave me that self confidence that I can be as good of a player that I want to be. So.
Is there one moment on the golf course that sticks out as a Red Hawk, or
Um,
that's a tough
yeah,
one, I know.
it's. I got to think about this for a sec, because I feel like we had a lot of fun moments. And then, I'd say the coolest moment of my career. Well, I have 2 cool moments, but my freshman year, I had the clinching point in our match play tournament with all the guys were around the green, which was really cool as a freshman to be able to
Hmm.
cap off that win. And that was, unfortunately, our only team win in my career. But that was a surreal moment. And then obviously my senior year MAC championship playoff was a really cool moment, getting to walk with a huge gallery and all the guys following. Fortunately, I didn't get to etch that one out, but nonetheless, that was such an awesome moment for me.
Yeah, gosh, that was cool to watch. Shout out White Eagle
Yeah.
Golf Club,
White Eagle, gotta love it.
one of the harder places.
God, that place was playing brutal.
So hard.
That was so hard.
Okay, so you finish up your great career in Miami,
Uh huh.
and now you're like, hey, what's next? Let's turn professional and
Yep.
make a run at the PGA Tour. So what would you?
Yep.
How has the transition been? So what? You turned professional in May.
Yeah, pretty much. So with my gap year in the 5th year, I was already 24 years old. I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, if you're gonna do this, let's get this boat rolling. So as
Yep.
soon as I graduated and got back home, I pretty much turned pro right away and started playing, competing, and living the pro lifestyle.
Nice.
Um,
So how has that transition been? I'm sure there's positives and negatives from a
mhm.
college lifestyle to a professional golf lifestyle.
Yeah, I mean the transition golf wise, honestly, with what I was kind of playing and competing in the summer, uh, golf courses are much. We were very lucky in Miami to play a super super good schedule and play really
Mhm.
hard, good golf courses. Pretty much every event we played in. So the golf aspect was actually a pretty easy transition, because you go from going to these prestigious clubs across the country to mini tour events at kind of smaller town, easier golf courses.
Yeah.
So the golf aspect was actually a pretty easy transition. But then the tough aspect, the harder aspect of it, is the fact that you're sacking up a lot of cash every event you go to, and if you don't play well, like, you're going to be in the hole a good bit. So that was the toughest transition part for me. But it got I mean, I remember my first pro event. I felt like I couldn't breathe through the first 6 holes, because I was so nervous to like not make a mistake. And luckily, that's a horrible mindset to have while you're playing golf. And luckily, I was able to play fine through that, and then ease into the round and just kind of remind yourself, dude, it's just golf. Just go get the ball in the hole.
Right.
And got off. I mean, honestly, my first 4 pro events, I played awesome. I cashed the check every time, was up money, and um, so I think that really helped me out, getting off to, not necessarily a great start, but definitely a better start than, if I had to like really be honest with myself, probably a better start than I was even expecting. Making my first 4 cuts, and I made I was positive money, so I was super fired up. But had I not, I think it was really crucial for me early in my days to make a few cuts. Like, all right, you can do this. Like, you're just as good as these guys. Because my college career, I was never a guy that I was I'd consider myself steady Eddie, but I was never a guy that would go out and shoot 67, 66, 65, 64, and now at the pro level, if you're not shooting at least 3, 4, 5 under, you're kind of getting lapped on those golf courses. So just early success, I think, really helped me realize that, hey, you can do this. It's not that hard. It's still golf.
Right. That must have been a huge confidence boost. So then,
It,
yeah. Why don't you explain what Q school is like I'm 5 years old?
okay. So Q school is your one real chance a year to go gain status on. This is the first year that so there's 4 stages to Q school. If you're starting out with for my instance, first year being pro, there's 4 stages. You got pre-qualifier, first stage, second stage, final stage. So I had to start all the way at pre-Q, which is just 3 rounds. It's like, depending on where you're at, it's as long as you don't play. If you don't throw up on yourself, you're gonna get through pre-Q. If you're a solid player, and you kind of have to progress through each stage. They each get harder, and then at the end, this is the first year in I think quite some time that at final stage they offered 5 PJ Tour cards. Q school used to be you'd go straight to the PJ Tour, but now Q school it's predominantly focused on the Corn Ferry Tour. So I played pre-Q, played well, got through, got to first stage, played really solid, got through, and then unfortunately at second stage is where you get guys who played the year on the Corn Ferry Tour, didn't have a great year. There's even PJ Tour players at second stage, because final stage, if you get to final stage, you're pretty much guaranteed some sort of status, or you're gonna have somewhere to be playing next year. Whether you finish top 5, get your PJ Tour card, then the next 60 spots got some version of Corn Ferry status, and then there's also this is also the first year of PJ Tour Americas, which is both Latin and Canada, which if you played really bad, you could still get status there. So Q school is, I mean, if you're into the golf world at all, you follow Monday Q Info. This is kind of the biggest time of the year for pro golfers who don't have status for that following year. And then at Q school, I made it to second stage, which again, kind of going back to, me with my first 4 pro events, getting off to a good start, if you would have told me I would have, in May when I turned pro, I was going to make it all the way to second stage, I've been like, oh wow, that's pretty, that's pretty solid. Obviously I know I could get to final stage and play better, but even getting through first stage I felt like a pretty good accomplishment for my first year being pro. But then, I didn't play great at second stage, but it was an absolutely unbelievable experience. You got to pull what you can pull. I played horrible, but the first 2 rounds I was paired with 2 guys that, combined over 20 some years of professional experience, combined over 6.5 million in career earnings. So getting to play with guys that have been around the block, and they were actually I was paired with them the first 2 rounds. They were actually both tied for the lead at second stage through those first 2 rounds. So I feel like that was an invaluable experience, getting to play and kind of watch them and see how they go about Q school rounds, because it's as stressful and as high pressure of golf as you can see outside of the majors or big time PJ Tour events. Honestly,
Yeah, man, you touched on a lot of things. I think the one thing is how much you had to explain that, which I think might be the problem with professional golf. Is no one actually really knows what's going on with the assurgence of live and all the
it's a crazy world right now.
And I've been trying to pick your brain and it's I don't know where to turn.
I know, because up until this year they had Q school for for obviously Latin America and Canada, which were separate tours, but now this year with it's like a whole new Q school with getting a PJ Tour card and then also getting the combined Latin America and Canada America's Tour status, where historically there's Q school for just Latin America, Q school for just Canada, and then Q school for just Corn Ferry. But now they're kind of almost all bunched into one, and there's supposed to be Q school for the Canada season, which would be in the summer. But there's there's really nothing out about that. So
Crazy.
those guys that don't get to final stages, it's kind of like what am I? What should I be doing right now? So it's just unfortunate because obviously the PGA Tour is dealing with pretty big stuff with Live, and definitely it's I think taking away and hurting a little bit of the what ultimately made the PGA Tour, which is guys kind of fighting and earning their way up to the tour. And that's right now I think just being overlooked because you're getting the big stars are getting poached.
Right. Well, that's well said. So I can imagine, as you touched on, huge confidence boost. Although you didn't make it to final stage, just seeing. I know Ryan Blom was one of those guys.
Ryan Blom and Julian Surrey, which I don't know if you saw his last hole at final stage, but unfortunately he was well within inside the number and then made an unfortunate triple on the last to knock him outside of getting guaranteed starts. So that was tough to watch. But yeah, sorry, go ahead with whatever you were saying.
I can assume he's an awesome guy.
They're super nice.
Right, so then you mentioned hey, a lot of guys in your boat don't necessarily you don't have a place to play right now. So I then asked, what is next? You're waiting for this Q school cycle in the summer for Canada, hopefully.
Yeah.
Right. What do the next 5-6 months look like?
So it's honestly, you play Mondays and mini tour events. Play as many as you can. I mean, within your financial ability and what's around you, but you're just kind of constantly trying to stay sharp until you figure out when that next opportunity is going to be. You just rip a ton of Mondays and get hot a couple times, then you can get status that way. But that's obviously much more difficult and also extremely expensive to just go play Mondays when you're not cashing checks. So it's tough.
Well, let's shout out a Red Hawk Patrick Flavin, who has been previously in the interview. He what was that? 5 Mondays in a season or something?
He made 5. He Mondayed 5 times in, and through that, he had a couple really solid finishes, which also earned him some sponsors exemptions, which is ultimately how he got on the Corn Ferry Tour. And that is, I think, one of the more impressive accomplishments or year of golf put together by anyone that's outside of the top 50 in the world, because that's insane. That's so hard to do. He almost I remember Sunday, it was either Saturday or Sunday, one of the PGA Tour events he Mondayed into, he was tied for the lead or one back. That's really, really impressive.
Something I ask everyone who comes on this pod, there's 14, 15-year-olds who are hey, I want to get better, I want to play college golf. What would be a piece of advice to them?
There's so many different things you can do. I think being diligent, being super focused with your practice, and I think obviously, speed is becoming a bigger aspect of the game. I think developing speed, but with control with your driver. But honestly, for me, the biggest thing that I think could have helped my college career out is just if I grinded short game. As a junior, it's when you go out and practice, you just want to go out and beat balls. I think you got to set, parameters around your range time. I'm going to be super focused. I want to accomplish this, and then, dude, just go chip and putt. Go get your buddies, go do up and down games, go do putting games, go do putting drills. At the end of the day, your short game can save you more than your ball striking can, I think.
No, I would agree.
So,
okay, we'll end it on some fun questions. How about that?
Okay, let's do it.
Favorite type of music to listen to? I don't even know if I know this question.
It totally depends on what kind of mood I'm in. If it's, summer, I love bumping country music in the car. If I'm hanging out with friends, and we're maybe having a few soda pops. I like a little more pop, like
Yeah.
some stuff that makes you want to dance and move. But I mean, I think more often than not, I'm listening to country music.
Okay.
So we'll go with that.
I know this one phone app. If you had to delete all the other phone apps in the world, and you have only one time on your phone, what would that app be?
So the one app I can save,
Yes.
like, okay,
Uh-huh.
whew.
Well, without like the ascent, like you've got messages and FaceTime and calls
Yeah,
and
yeah, like
yeah,
we're talking like social media or
or games.
like
Yeah.
or games. Dude, I mean, I think the amount of time I've put into Candy Crush is
That's what I figured. Yeah.
I don't think I could let that go because I mean I've been grinding that for an embarrassingly long amount of time and am really far into the game, so that would probably be the one that I would have to save. And
What
that would.
are there levels? Like what level are you on?
Let me go check. It's it's shocking.
That's good. You're a
It's
grinder.
when I put my mind to something,
Yeah.
I just go. I'm on level. Hold on, I'm cashing in my daily treats right now,
Oh, good.
or my daily. I just got two. Perfect. Okay. Let's see what we got going here. I'm on level 6,997. So I'm three away from breaking that
Wow.
7,000 mark.
Wow. Okay. Well, you'll have to let our subscribers know on the benchmark.
I will. I will.
um, one meal for the rest of your life, or your.
Gnocchis. Just
Gosh, I should have known
just
that. Yeah.
classic Italian. It's been my favorite meal for as long as I can remember. And I can house gnocchis with a little vodka sauce and some sausage in
Nice.
there for
Nice.
every. I could eat it every single day.
Okay. Um, one course for the rest of your life, just overall experience.
Nah, Northland Country Club for me.
Nice. Yeah.
You've played. It's this course up in northern Minnesota, in Duluth on Lake Superior. It's the vibe out there is just it's pure golf. The course is rough around the edges, but it's fun. It's tough. It's the views are crazy, and it's if there's one place that you can go out, if I could go out and play with buddies the rest of my life, it's there 100%.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, gosh, too special. I still have like three golf tees that I keep in my valuables pouch from Northland.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
No, it's a fun spot for sure,
just
and
good vibes.
it's close to the beloved Ishwagama Country Club, which would honestly probably also be up there for
Yeah,
places I'd like to play. It's a fun little goat track.
yeah. Yeah. Okay, Abs, thank you so much.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
sure a lot of people will find this super interesting. So,
yeah. I
good luck, and
appreciate.
I'll be seeing you
Happy
soon.
talking.
Yeah,
Yeah,
perfect.
hopefully I'll be seeing you in a couple days as you make your way down towards me.
Amen. All righty, thanks, Abs.
Amen. Yeah, we'll talk to you.